On the Build Show today, we're talking exterior doors. We're going to give you all the knowledge so that you can order a really good door for your next project. Let's get going. We're talking today about exterior doors, all the things you need to know about the components, the parts and pieces, and how to order and install a really good door. Now I'm here with Corey. Corey, you're the owner of Architectural Impressions. You've been on my videos before. You're a fantastic resource when it comes to this millwork department. But let's step back a second from this project and talk about how exterior doors on most projects in America work.
Most exterior doors on projects are really an afterthought. It's an off-the-shelf product that somebody walks in and says, I need a door, I need it this wide, I need it this tall, and my jamb depth needs to be this.
Yep.
That's about as much thought as people put to it.
And on the other hand, what we're doing and what we've done for years as we bought from you is we're really getting into the specifying of the specific components, and that's really what we're going to focus on today.
Right.
So folks that are watching this, whether you're a builder, remodeler, architect, or you're about to build a house, you're going to know what to order and how to do that. So let's start first with the jambs on this door behind us. The jambs is a critical component of a door, and that's typically where I find the most problems, even on doors that are maybe 5, 10, 15 years old. We find a lot of rot on the jambs.
Right.
What are we doing here to prevent that?
So we're utilizing Endura's FrameSaver jamb. The FrameSaver jamb from Endura is a jamb that's a wood jamb, but the bottom couple inches is a composite block.
Nice.
That's finger jointed in. What that does is that addresses that critical seam between the jamb and the threshold that really is the source of the majority of our problems when it comes to rot on an exterior door.
Yeah, and often these exterior doors get blasted from the elements. Like
Absolutely.
this door out of the garage right behind us here, it's on a gable end. We've got a 2-story overhang above us that's 2 foot deep. But the wind's been whipping through here even as we've been filming. And imagine if the rain was coming, that rain's gonna run right down the face of the door and sit right on the sill.
Yeah, most doors you're very reliant on the caulk seam between the bottom jamb and the threshold. And over the course of construction, that's getting stepped on and flexed constantly.
Yep.
So usually by the time the homeowner's ready to move in, that seam's already been compromised and you're starting to get wicking up in the jamb of the moisture that's been in that jamb. Not to mention that caulk joint doesn't fail continuously all the time.
That's right.
It'll fail partially, which means water will get let in, but then it can't drain out, so it's held in.
Even worse.
Yeah, and it's a wood jamb, and it once the tree becomes a jamb, that doesn't mean it stops being a tree. Through capillary action, it's going to wick that moisture up, it's going to stay in the jamb, and then it can't dry out.
And then we see that rot happening the first 3-4 inches on every one. You can take your knife out on a remodel, and almost every one of those, you can shove your knife all the way in because it's totally rotted.
So with the Endura FrameSaver, with that composite block, you're just not going to have that problem.
Tell me about the sill on this job. What are we using for sills here?
It's a Z-Series articulating cap sill from Endura again. What's great about the articulating cap, unlike most thresholds that have an adjustable cap, you have to get down on your hands and knees with a screwdriver, lift that cap up and down, and try to make it as tight as you can. The articulating cap will move with the closing of the door, meaning that cap will flex, it'll stay nice and tight to the door bottom and help it seal a lot better.
Good deal. Let's talk hinges. Now these hinges look a little different than a standard hinge. What's going on with these hinges, Corey?
These are MTEG heavy-duty ball bearing hinges, which have kind of become a standard around our shop. We just, over time, utilizing a standard pin hinge, as that grinds, it's going to leave a lot of black dust. It's going to fail quickly. It's going to rust, particularly on an exterior door. The ball bearing hinge has a great lifetime. It's not going to experience the issues that you would normally experience with a lot of other hinges. And it just operates so much better, and it's not that much more expensive.
Yeah, and in fact, that's a great tip for interior doors as well. Those interior doors, when those hinges grind over time, you see that black streak on your paint on the interior trim. So specify those ball bearing hinges. How much more expensive are we talking for those?
I mean, you're maybe talking $40 a door.
Yeah, so we've got 4 hinges here, $10 more per hinge, you know, 40, 50 bucks, totally worth it.
Right.
All right, so tell me about this slab door behind me. This white flat door, is that the final door for this house?
That is not. It's a construction door. Some guys call it a Dunnage door. It is purely there so that the client can lock up the house during construction and so that we don't have to subject the final slab to construction debris and everything else that's going to happen while this house is getting built. We're really excited about the final doors that are going in there. They're coming from Simpson. And the reason we're excited about it is because the door slabs are built a lot like the Endura jambs that we're utilizing. Simpson has a product called the Water Barrier Tech, which that means that they're putting a layer on the outside of the door that protects water from getting sucked in through the wood. They also do a composite block at the bottom, just like the Jambs, so that water can't get wicked up from the bottom of the door.
Very cool.
And with that, with no overhang, they'll give us a 5-year warranty, which is
Very
unheard
awesome.
of because of the styles that they've used.
Yeah, that's
not
totally
just flush.
unheard of.
Yeah.
Next, let's talk about actually putting these doors together. So we mentioned several Endura parts. You're getting hinges from M-Tech. You're getting the door later from Simpson.
Right.
Tell me about the process of actually putting that door together.
Well, what's very critical about putting the components together, and I guess that's what people need to understand about pre-hung units that they get from a local supplier. A lot of times they're just putting components together, and the components and the system are really as good as the specification that's being driven. Who's driving the spec? Is the architect, the builder, or just being driven by a bottom line?
Yeah.
And you need to know that.
Yep.
Coupled with what's the joinery going to look like? How are the things going together? We do everything on a CNC purely so those joints can be nice and tight. It helps give
Super crisp.
Oh, very crisp. It gives that a caulk joint longevity because it's crisp and we're not having to span large gaps. And it just looks nicer. It communicates a message to the end homeowner through our clients that I think they want.
Tell me, this is minor and I think cool though. Tell me about your double bore mortise back here on this door.
Yeah, so you'll notice if you look at the jamb that the mortise for the strike plates on the jamb are not done. We just have a hole bored through the jamb so that you can put a deadbolt on it during construction. We don't do that because most of the time that the homeowners are buying these doors through the builder, they are not sure what their final hardware selection is going to be. And everyone has different strike plates. Most door manufacturers will mortise that because they want to make it easy. Well, what actually ends up happening is it ends up being the wrong size.
Yeah.
The homeowner selects a strike plate, and you've got trim carpenters out there either having to chisel out or epoxy and fill around that strike plate.
The worst is the epoxy and fill. It looks terrible. You never can get it right. So I love having it come out to the job site because every one of my carpenters can use a chisel and can handle that and make it look really crisp.
Right.
What have we missed, Corey? Let's talk a little bit about the process of ordering these. So at the beginning of construction, typically at the foundation stage or right when we're getting into framing, that's when our project managers are meeting with your people out on the job site. We're rolling out the plans and we're saying, okay, for our front door, we're gonna have this style. So let's talk about the front door because you guys are gonna pre-hang that and get that all set up. For our utility room door, our garage door, any other doors that are going out to patio spaces, let's say, doors that are not coming from the window manufacturer, all those I'm ordering from your guys. What things do we need to take into account?
You need to understand all of the components of the system. So just like if you were to buy a door from Marvin, you're buying a Marvin system. Whereas if you're buying one of these doors, you're buying a system from a pre-hanger and it's all about the components and who's putting it together. What that means is if you're not driving spec, somebody's driving spec.
That's right.
And you need to know what's going into your door. That's why we love working with architects like Davey and builders like Matt Davenport, because those guys drove the spec, they specified Endura FrameSaver, they understood the value of the components. And so as we're talking about the exposure of this house, we were able to build a system that we knew would function well and would last for a really long time.
And as for those Endura components, guys, I've been using Endura parts on my exterior doors for probably 15 years now. And man, I've gotten rid of a lot of problems on warranty. They make a fantastic door parts. And if you can't buy from Corey, if you're not an Austin builder watching this, find that local millwork supplier. There's some small ones like Corey's company. There's also some macro ones, the bigger ones. And all of them can order these parts and components for you from Endura, from the hinges, all those things. You can specify that and make sure you get it right. Big thanks to Davenport Builders for letting us shoot this video at their job site, and also to David McKeithron, the architect here on this job, because he's the one who actually specified these Endura components ahead of time. And speaking of Endura, they are a sponsor on our videos, so big thanks to those guys for sponsoring our videos. Fantastic people to work with. They make great components available nationwide. Guys, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and in fact, I'm going to put a link to Corey's Instagram feed in the description. Follow these guys on Instagram, even if you're in Tupelo, Mississippi, because he's got great Instagram pics of all their installs. They're using the best practices. They're using Proseco fluid applieds when they're installing. They just really do it right. So this is the guy that you need to follow on Instagram. Otherwise, hit that subscribe button. New content every Tuesday and every Friday. We'll see you next time on The Build Show.